What is up, my friends and fellow BusyBees? Today, we have a BusyBees in Business strategy session, which you may have heard me talk about before on the podcast. This is where I meet one-on-one with one of you BusyBees that are currently facing a challenge or a barrier in your business or soon-to-be business, selling your painted and refinished furniture. In these sessions, we chat about what you're currently facing, what you've done to try and address it so far, and then discuss a plan of action to get you through whatever it is that currently has you at a bit of a standstill. So I would like to welcome my lovely guest today here, Jen, who is at Made with Her Hands on Instagram. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Jen, you're in the stage of the all-inner on the furniture refinisher's success spectrum. Am I right?
Yeah, for sure. First off, thanks for having me. And yeah, I am an all-inner. I dove in head first.
Amazing. And if people listening don't know what we're talking about, you can go back to episode 45 of the podcast. It is the episode, The Furniture Refinisher's Success Spectrum Journey. And you can identify what stage that you're currently at and what you can do to move yourself to the next stage. If you're aiming to be an all-inner like Jen, it will have all the tips there if you so choose to go there. Okay, so Jen, you had reached out and you were wondering basically if I had any podcast episodes talking about brand partnerships and being an affiliate and having multiple streams of revenue in my business. And I said that I did not, but I asked you to come on here so that we could chat about it and I could answer your questions here. So thank you so much for being here and I can't wait to dive in. Do you want to just give me a bit of an overview of kind of where you're at right now in your business and what led you to being interested in learning more about this stuff?
Yeah, of course. So I share a lot of what I do on Instagram, primarily, a little bit on Facebook, but 99% Instagram. And I feel like I'm always seeing this amazing community share products they love, and you see that they are an affiliate link, or maybe they make a little residual income from all of that. And I have no idea how to reach out to brands. Am I even big enough to reach out to brands? Is it worth it? All of the nooks and crannies of trying to figure out how that works, because it is such a new thing that it's not your typical, way to make money.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of a separate thing, especially when we're thinking about the world of furniture, painting and refinishing. Like
Hmm.
that's very much a service-based business. And then when you start looking at this kind of stuff, you're more of a content creator and content entrepreneur when you're exploring those things. And I think it's a really for people who are interested in doing that, I think it's a great way to kind of infuse that extra income into your business and have, just some more residual stuff coming through versus having to, spend hours working on a piece of furniture to only then get that revenue coming in once you sell it. So
Right, exactly. The passive income.
exactly. Yeah. So the first thing I wanted to address, because you had said it when you first reached out to, is, you didn't know if you were big enough, if your account was big enough. You're nearing that 1,000 follower mark, and that's what kind of got you starting to think about it. And just for anyone that's listening out there, I want you to know that regardless of what number is on there, however many followers you have, if you're doing it the right way, you can still partner with brands. I mean, you need to have somebody there listening and watching, but there's no kind of special number that exists out there. It's more about the kind of level of influence and the connection and the relationship that you have with that following. So let that be something that is,
Motivating, don't give up
yeah,
lunch.
motivating, exactly. A lot of people, I think, wait till whatever that number in their head is, till they reach that to even start thinking about that. And there really isn't a special number out there, especially now because so many people have gotten so big on social media, like, millions and millions of followers, which is great. But there's less intimacy in that relationship with the person behind the account and the followers. Chances are it's the person filming the content, but they're not even the ones that's running that account anymore. So there's kind of that layer of removal. So the intimacy isn't really there. So with the smaller accounts, brands are really starting to understand the value in that and these micro creators, micro influencers, and the followings that they have and how it's important to tap into that. So if that's been a worry of yours, either Jen or anyone else, just know that the numbers really don't matter all that much. Just kind of how you use it and how you connect with that following. And I follow you, Jen. I listen to your stories and watch them on the regular. You show up often. You show up like your authentic self. You're there. You're on camera. You're showing what you're doing in your day. You're doing all these things that are really like the the equation to success on Instagram is to create that relationship with the people and just giving some insight into your day-to-day life and just who you are as a person, not just as a business or a business owner. So big props to you for doing that because a lot of people, that's kind of the thing that keeps them back and they're like scared to talk on their stories or to show their face and these things that really do help to create that connection. So keep that up.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so I guess we'll break this down kind of into two separate headings because like partnerships is one thing and then affiliate is kind of its own other thing. So for partnering with brands and companies, there's a couple different ways that you can go about it. And I'll put like a little asterisk here that there's kind of no set way that I have seen that's like, do this and you will achieve the success. So this is just from my experience, what I've seen work. I follow a lot of people who work in influencer marketing and social media management and those kinds of things. So I'm kind of pulling from different things that I've heard from different people's experiences, but again, grain of salt. Essentially, what I've come to the conclusion of is you can pitch brands and reach out to them, but ultimately the thing that will probably have more people coming to you is spending that time making content that's like exciting to brands and making them want to partner with you and creating that connection with your audience and that engagement. Because from a brand's perspective, obviously they want to partner with people who they enjoy and they like the content of and all that stuff, but they're a business at the end of the day and they have dollar signs in their eyes. And they're like, how can we connect with people who will bring the best return on our investment, whether that means money coming in, whether that means more awareness of our brand to a certain group of people who may not currently be aware of us, or if they're trying to like launch a certain product and they want to either get sales or get people knowing about that product. My recommendation at the get-go is to be creating content that would be enticing to these brands or to show them that you could create content for them and their products that would help to sell or would help to connect to your audience in a certain way. So I actually didn't go back and look, but are you tagging brands if you're using like their products in your reels, for
I
example, in your
am.
stories? Yeah, okay.
Yep, I'm tagging, and I've had one brand share some of my posts and some of my reels that feature their products to their stories and then right to their, main wall as well. And I was like, oh my goodness, it's crazy. But then like, how do I reach out to them and say, hey, any chance we could, work together? I don't know how to phrase it or what to say or how to even ask, I guess, the right words to say.
For sure. And so there's kind of like different ways, there's kind of like different actually trains of thought almost when it comes to our content. Because if you look at people who are like working full time as like content creators, they're hanging on to their content really tightly because they're trying to monetize it so actively. So things like brands say you make a reel with their products and then they save it and they put it on their like regular feed. They tag you, right? Jen at Made with Her Hands featuring this product that we have, blah, blah, blah. Like a lot of content creators would then kind of reach out to them and be like, thanks for sharing my content. Can you pay me for my content essentially or remove it? Which there's like two ends of the spectrum that you could go about it, right? Because that could just most often will just result in them saying, oh, sorry, we don't have a budget. We'll remove it. And
We'll
then
remove
nothing
right.
happens. But you're also like getting more eyes on your content. You know, if people are following
Hmm.
that brand, but they don't follow you, they may be like, oh, I like this. I'm going to check her out. So when I was starting out, that was very much something like I was always excited, first of all, when a brand would even just like, if they just go and like double tap on something where I was just like, oh my God, they saw me. Like
Right.
it feels cool, right? You're like, oh my God, this big brand. And so just getting those eyes on your account may very well be the goal right now too. And that's totally fine to get them to partner with you. So there might be social media managers running their accounts, but it could also be people who are dealing with those partnerships. So getting your name basically out there often with them, creating lots of content, engaging with their account too is something that not a lot of people do, but from the brand's perspective really does pay off because it shows that you're kind of authentically interested in their account and in their products and stuff. So
Hmm.
um, a way to do this too, if you want to be really methodical about it, is Instagram now has a favorites, like you can add accounts to your favorites. And so they'll show up basically at the top of your feed. So if you had like a strategy of, I have a goal of partnering with two of my top 20 favorite brands this year, you could go in and add those brands to your favorites on Instagram so that you're constantly seeing their content pop up and just
That's a
engaging
really
with
great
it.
idea. Yeah,
Yeah,
because then they're going to recognize my name faster because they
exactly.
see it more often. I love that.
Totally, because there really is like you can't even fault them for it, right? There's just like trillions of people like out there and accounts
For
and names.
sure.
Like I even find it so hard sometimes to sometimes you'll even just kind of notice like somebody's profile picture. You'll be like, I've seen that, I recognize it, but I could not tell you like the username or the person
Mhm.
behind it just because it's just social media and it's constantly moving. So being engaging with them, your name will come to mind perhaps if they then have a campaign because often they can only have, maybe 10 people that they can partner with. And again, they may not be looking at huge numbers necessarily, but they might be looking for authentic engagement and alignment with their brand and their brand values. So that would be my biggest recommendation is kind of just like leaning into creating the content, shouting them out, when you're using their products and stuff, be in their ears so that you come to mind. But you can always reach out and, propose a certain collaboration. I would recommend if you're going to do that to have an idea in mind versus just being like, I love you and I love your products and I'd love to do something and leaving it open-ended like that, because that just kind of puts more work essentially in their lap. But if you reached out and said, I love, I'm trying to think of a product so I can be specific, talking to Howard's products. Howard's, I love your restore finish. I use it all the time on my furniture makeovers. I just talked about it in a recent reel and blah, blah, blah. I'm working on a piece in the next few weeks and like I'm going to be using that product. I'd love to feature it in a reel and, highlight the ways that it can be used and where it can be purchased and like all the things, basically showing the value that you could bring to the brand
Mhm.
and talking about your audience too, so that they know who is behind or who's going to be seeing that content and they'll let you know basically if it aligns with who they're trying to reach, if it makes sense. And even if they say no, and don't be afraid of getting a no because you get a lot of no's before you get a yes. Then they'll at least again have your name or your account in mind and they might not have a budget right now, but their new budget might start in June or it might start in October and then they might keep your name somewhere in a list and then they might reach out way down the line when you kind of think that that opportunity is completely null and dead and gone. So you can reach out in DMs in terms of tangibly doing it. I would first go on their account and see if they have an email, like on the buttons. Normally it'll say like follow, email, contact, whatever. And see if they have an email available there. If they don't, sometimes on the website too, you have to do a bit of digging. But sometimes if you go under press or media, they'll have like in the footer of their website somewhere that you can click. And sometimes there's specifically somewhere for partnerships that you can email. Sometimes they have like a influencer one. Sometimes it's kind of different depending on the brand. But if you can do some research and find the right email, it'll more likely end up in front of the right person.
Okay.
And a little tip, I don't know if this helps or not, but I've gotten to the right people at times in doing this, is even if you can only find like a info at howardsproducts.ca or whatever, just like a very general email address where they're getting like complaints and inquiries about everything for their whole company, just having the first line of your email be like, hi, could you please forward this to whoever handles partnerships slash collaborations? Thanks so much, or something, and just bolding that so that they're seeing that they're like, oh, this isn't for me, and they'll send it off to whoever in the company deals with that versus giving your whole big long pitch and then they're just like, oh, this doesn't have to do with me, and they just delete it.
And they delete it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
No, these are great tips.
awesome. So yeah, so that's kind of tangibly how you could go ahead and pitch. I will say, like, if it's something that you're wanting to make constant thing, like there's a lot of content creators who it's their full-time gig. It's just partnering with brands and then creating content, and the brand partnerships are what keeps them afloat. To get that consistency, I haven't found it yet. It's a lot of pitching, it's a lot of getting no's or come back to us laters and that kind of stuff. So it takes a lot of time. If you can make systems that make it easier and quicker, so you're not having to, rewrite an entire email each time, like have a template that you pick pieces from and you add tidbits about the specific products or the specific company's values and that kind of stuff. It'll make your life easier. Maybe you batch some time, like you choose Tuesday mornings when you do all of this stuff. So you're kind of in the zone and doing a bunch of it all at once. That might be a way to make it not take up your whole time because it could very easily, if you don't limit it, be a full-time job essentially.
Right. No, setting one day a week or one morning or even just like 1 hour to bang out all this stuff and then
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So if you're creating this content and you're taking these brands and all these things and you're doing this great content and you have somebody come to your door knocking and say, actually, we are interested in collaborating with you, I would recommend being ready for that if it's something that you're interested in doing, which you've said it
Hmm.
is. So I would recommend having a media kit, creating a media kit, having that on your to-do list in the semi-near future, and a rate card. A media kit basically is just like, as a content creator, it's your resume essentially. It's saying, this is who I am, these are my accounts, these are the people that follow my accounts, and here's an example of some content that I've made, and here's how we could work together. So some people do it with their rates included on the media kit. Some people do a separate rate card. It's personal preference. You could do some research into what makes most sense for you, but having that basically large overview that kind of at a glance shows who you are as a content creator is what you can be sending to brands when you're trying to pitch them. And also, if they reach out to you and say, we're interested in working together, can you send me your media kit? Then you'll have that at the ready.
Awesome. So I've never heard of a media kit, so you've just blown my mind
Okay.
a little bit.
Okay. So again, this could open up a whole
Whole,
Pandora's box of, yeah,
yes,
deep diving.
can of worms. Here we go.
Yes.
So is it like you put it all together? I mean, are we talking resume like we put this in a Word doc situation or do up like a pretty Canva website and flip that?
Yeah. So I know you're a Canva user. I would say take a look on Canva. You have the paid version too, right?
I do, yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot of media kit templates on Canva.
Okay.
So if you just do a deep dive, even if you don't use one of the templates, I would recommend if you use a template, make it change it up a bit so it looks
Hmm.
more authentic to you and your vibe and whatever. But look at the different things because everyone kind of puts different stuff on theirs and look at what makes sense for you or what you see as commonalities across the board that you'd like to include or not. But yeah, there's a million templates on Canva. I ended up using one of the free versions for mine and then
Hmm.
just changing, the colors and the fonts and moving things around a bit. And you're linking your own stuff, obviously, too. So it's just kind of a good starting point. And also, I'm so bad with like layouts and graphic design and stuff. So it kind of gave me a good, like, okay, this kind of overall layout looks aesthetically pleasing. And then I can go from there and switch it up.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then on the media kit as well, something that brands will be interested in knowing is your engagement rate. So basically, when you post a piece of content, what's the percentage of people that are engaging with that versus how many people either are following you or see that content? So you can just Google engagement rate calculator on Google. There's some ones that'll pop up, probably ones that you can link your account and it will just auto generate it for you. I have like a very, very old school spreadsheet that I made for myself because a little bit of spreadsheet porn really does it for
Hmm.
me. But I want to say the standard across the board, it's much lower than you would think. I want to say it's like 4%. Don't
Okay.
quote me on that, but it's very little. And also with the recent changes in maybe the last year with Instagram, engagement rates have kind of gone down because just less people are seeing your content in general. So whatever number that is, don't like harp on it, but having it available to the brand is probably something they'll end up asking for. So I recommend including it.
Okay, perfect.
So once you get that mocked up and don't feel the need for it to be, perfect and pristine, like have it all together, have the things you need on there, and then as you go on, you can add to it and, fine tune it and things like that. And then as you collaborate with brands too, I would recommend adding those examples onto that media kit so that they can see, this is a piece of content that I made for that brand. Even before you get those partnerships too, you can create a few samples if there's, a tool or a product that you use and you love and you talk about all the time. Maybe make a little reel or even just take a aesthetic kind of photo with it and add that to your media kit almost as like an example of like, this is what I could do if we were going to be partnering together. This is the kind of content that I could make for you.
Like that. And it's a double whammy because then I'm making content that I can put out there for me right now anyway.
Exactly. So work smart, not hard.
Yes.
And then kind of a deeper dive, I guess you could maybe leave this to later on when you start having those collaborations coming in or coming through because of your reaching out, is to familiarize yourself with terms that will often come up in contracts for collaborations. And there's a lot of content out there if you want to do a deep dive. People will highlight certain terms and stuff. Again, I never like to like give legal advice or anything, but
Mhm.
there's stuff that like exclusivity, perpetual usage, or in perpetuity, things kind of like little words that just get like thrown in, not sneakily, but they're there. And it kind of means that a brand would then own the rights to that content forever and ever. So people can get into like a little bit of hot water sometimes when they've like affiliated themselves with a brand 10 years ago, that brand's now kind of getting canceled, and then they're still using your content because you didn't notice that one word in a contract 10 years ago and stuff like that. So just familiarizing yourself with the legal terms, or even when you get the first contract coming through, it could even be worth the investment of just hiring a lawyer to look over it and highlight anything that might be worth noting for you, like as you move
Mhm.
forward, just so you then have that knowledge as you go forward. I mean, nobody's really out, no one's trying to like screw you over. I don't want to make it seem like that, but it's just if you don't have a legal background, which I know I didn't, there's a lot of words that I was like, I'm going to have to Google this and figure out what
Right.
this means.
Yeah, no, definitely no legal background here.
Yeah, okay. So just worth noting, added on the kind of higher level to-do list one day. And so, yeah, so basically, my recommendation at this point in terms of partnerships would be creating that content, engaging with those brands, pitching yourself, but like basically don't take your time away from money generating tasks at this time if generating money is your ultimate goal. You know what I mean? Like if working on furniture or whatever is like paying the bills and that kind of stuff, don't just stop that completely to just start pitching and doing this stuff. Like have it be a balance because it will take time to kind of fine tune and figure out your groove. But having those things in the background set up as you go will be a good kind of stepping stone as you move forward.
Awesome. I love it.
Perfect. And there's also another thing I should mention too, is there are collaboration platforms out there that brands will basically, if they have an active campaign where they're launching either their business or a certain product, they will post the campaign on there and then you can apply directly to it.
Okay.
Let me read through some because I have a bunch bookmarked here. So Aspire IQ, IZEA, Maverick, hashtag paid, Collabster, creator.co. There's like a bunch of different ones. Takes a little while to like set up an account on it and stuff and link all your social accounts and things like that. But basically once they're on there, you can go on and say, oh, I'm interested in this. It will usually say, here's who we are, here's what we're launching, here's the creative brief that we have in mind, because usually they kind of already know what type of a video they want to be made or what audience they want it to appeal to. And then it will say whether it's a gifted campaign, meaning that you'll just receive their product for free to create the content and then you get to keep the product. Or if it's a paid campaign, they'll usually have a budget and they'll say how much they're willing to spend and they'll say whether or not it's negotiable because sometimes you can negotiate it higher if you have, a really engaged following, or you can provide some other type of value, like maybe you have a really big audience on both Instagram and on YouTube, and they're asking for an Instagram reel for this campaign. You could say, I'm proposing this amount because if you're interested, I also have this audience on YouTube, and I could post that same content over there to, reach this audience. Here's what those two audiences look like, and blah, blah, blah. And if they're interested, then that investment would make more sense for them.
Yep, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so that can be another thing to add. I kind of basically just have one day a month that I go through and I'll just like take a quick peek at the different platforms, see what's been added in the last little while, and then apply to anything that I think would make sense for me and my audience and or is a product that I'm already currently using and loving. That's kind of
Mhm.
like the ideal collaboration or partnership is stuff that you already use, you already love, and they happen to be looking for people to talk about it. You're like, oh yeah, that's perfect.
Right? I know. Feed and wax, come my way.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a great way to kind of start with the affiliate talk too, because that's affiliate partnerships or collaborations are really the way that you can be talking about the products that you already use, you already love, you're recommending already probably, and
Mhm.
you can be getting a little bit of like a marginal amount of money if someone is to purchase that product as a result of you talking about it or recommending it. again, it's not a huge amount of money that you make off of any one certain sale, but if you have these products that you already are talking about, it can be great. And there's a couple different ways that that can look. You could have a brand reach out looking to collaborate, and they might suggest this as either a kind of a first partnership opportunity kind of thing. Like, we'll try this out, see how it goes, and
Mhm.
then maybe we could do a gifted or a paid partnership. You could reach out to them and they might suggest it again as a first step or as kind of this is all we do, because sometimes they don't have a budget, so they just do affiliate, which is
Okay.
fair.
Hmm.
And sometimes there's also affiliate programs set up for things that you already use, but you don't necessarily maybe see being actively promoted as like, oh, do you want to become an affiliate for this? So, for example, like Athletic Greens is something that I have drank every day for like 3 years or so.
Hmm.
And I never, well, I have reached out. They haven't wanted to collaborate yet, but I went on their website one time and they have like a refer a friend and you get however much towards your account, which is an affiliate program effectively.
Right.
So I was like, oh, I already have this code. So I added it to my link tree. I don't really actively promote it all that much, but that's something that I could then, as I'm already organically posting about it because I use it and I love it, saying, if you want to try it out for yourself, here's a link. So it's like something that you're already using, you're already paying for, but it could maybe eliminate a bill in your day-to-day life. Another example is we get like a subscription pack for our puppy with like toys and treats and whatever. And they again had a code where it's like if you refer a friend, you'll get X amount towards your subscription. So that would just eliminate a bill that I have instead of, having money directly into my pocket, but it's same difference, same but
Hmm.
different. So
No,
that's
I
an
like
option
that
too.
because I feel like I didn't think outside of the furniture box, like
Hmm.
outside of paint and tools, where this is stuff I would use every day.
Absolutely. And you know what? Maybe you want to just stay in that too. Some people want that focus on, I am a furniture painter and refinisher. And so I'm only talking about this aspect of my life or my business or whatever. But if you want to expand that a little bit because you're giving that behind the scenes of here's my day-to-day life and here's what I'm dealing with and whatever, that could make a lot of sense to just have it be a thing. And then maybe, who knows, maybe your business kind of just ends up organically morphing into more of like a lifestyle brand or whatever. It opens up different opportunities. But if you want to keep it more tailored to those tools and those products and stuff too, there may still also be based on the places that you're buying the stuff, the brands themselves might have affiliate or some other types of programs available.
Yeah, I feel like I need to set up a notes section in my phone and just make a list what I use for a week to start,
Yes.
and then sit down and Google all of them.
100%. That's a great way to go about it. And that's exactly what I did when I was wanting to start implementing this stuff, as I just looked
Mhm.
around, literally like the workshop was the first place. Because you don't really think about the things that you're using day to day. You just have, your go-to products and tools and stuff that you use. But when you start looking at like, oh, okay, what brand is this one tool that I picked up randomly or whatever, you start to really notice like the opportunities that exist. And even for creating content about it too, right?
Right, no, for sure.
Oh, and so another recommendation I was going to say too, when you're reaching out for either the affiliates or more for the partnerships, a recommendation I have is to have a custom email for your business. Ideally, in like in a perfect world, I would love everyone to have like a custom email domain, but that's just me, where it's like jen@madewithherhands.com or whatever.
Mhm.
It's super easy to do and it doesn't cost as much as people would think that it would. I just like to always throw that out there. But
Yeah.
even if you just have, madewithherhands@gmail.com or whatever,
Mhm.
makes it easier long term to have everything in one email inbox. I will tell you that from experience. It just kind of adds a layer of legitimacy and professionalism for the brands that are looking at you.
Okay.
And another thing too is if you're getting those inbound partnership requests or people trying to collaborate, there's a lot out there that sound really great and it's because they're not real. And so I tell people to be really thorough when reading it because you can get excited and be like, holy shit, this person wants to like collaborate with me. Oh my God, like I'm a fucking influencer. Like this is so crazy. And then you're just like, yes, yes, what do I have to do? Like I'll send you all my information. Taking a deep dive, looking at the email. There's usually a lot of tells in those emails in terms of like poorly written stuff, bad grammar. If you look at the email itself, itself, again, they'll always have like a customized email domain. So you'll never get an email from fusionmineralpaint@gmail.com. They'll have like blah, blah, blah at fusionmineralpaint.com.
Hmm.
So being thorough in those analysis too, and you should never have to pay money for anything related to a brand. Like they will send you the product if that's in the terms of the agreement. They'll send you the product, they'll pay for the shipping for that product. Like a lot of those scams will be like, yeah, we'll do this. You just have to pay the $4.99 shipping. That doesn't happen in real life. So those are ways that people are trying to get your information. So just putting that out there for anyone listening. You should never have to be putting money up front, or like sometimes they'll say, you pay for the product, send us the receipt or whatever, and we'll reimburse you. Those aren't normal things to be happening. So don't get scammed, please.
Okay.
Okay, so that was kind of just a lot of information thrown at you. Do you have any specific questions that didn't get answered in relation to partnerships or affiliate?
That was a lot of information, but it was so good. I took a ton of notes and I circled a lot of things with my highlighter. So I'll
Amazing.
have to read back all through them and re-listen to the podcast too once it's out there. I think just for myself, remembering that this is residual, like side income, and to keep focused on the furniture creation is going to be the tricky thing for me because I love Googling and making canvas stuff and all of that.
Yes.
I don't think I have any questions. Oh my goodness. This was really good, Mel.
Good. I'm so glad. That's a great thing to remind yourself of too. Just basically try not to do too much too quick because it's a whole new world. It truly is. And I know that I don't know everything in it. And I've only kind of like scraped the surface of the possibilities that are probably out there. And you can lose a lot of time into doing it. When I went full time in this business, I basically was nervous about what the reality was going to be. And so I was like, oh, you know what? I'll be really smart and think ahead. And I will just deep dive into doing it as content creator. And then also I'll have the revenue stream of the furniture. And also I'm going to do user generated content, which is like creating content for brands that they use on their own stuff, but you don't post. And so I basically was like, I'll just have three full-time jobs all at once. And then I quickly realized how much time there is in a day, which is only 24 hours. If you didn't know, I didn't know. And I was like, this is way too much all at once. And essentially, I was like, I'm going to burn myself out like really quickly if I'm trying to do all of this as much as I'm trying to do it right now. So I would just recommend like start with one thing, one little pillar or one part of it that
Yeah.
you're interested in. Have that be your deep dive, and you do however much in a week to learn about it, to work towards it, and just have your list of things that, like, in an ideal world will all be done one day. But take 3 months, 6 months, a year to like plug through those things slowly while you're maintaining kind of the cadence of what you're already doing, if that's working for you furniture wise. And the things will all eventually get done, and it will feel like really satisfying when it is completed. But you want to not hate it by the time that everything's done and like be so sick of it and be like, I don't even care about this anymore, because that can be what happens. And you want it to be done well, and so you don't have to go
Right.
back and redo it. So just like take the
Mhm.
time, don't try and rush it. And I can get like on a one track mind where I'm like, I'm gonna do all the things and like get it all done and be
Yes.
perfect about it. But in the end, that's not going to be the most effective way to go
No.
about it.
I did just think of a quick question if we
Yeah.
have time. So as far as like affiliate and partnerships, if I use one brand of paint and that's the brand of paint that I like, but I'd like to also have something else with this brand of paint, are companies like, no, you use that paint, you can't share this, and vice versa? Or is it more friendly than that?
Great question. So I've had it where applying, so I'm an affiliate with Fusion,
Right.
and I'm pretty sure when I applied, they had asked if I was an affiliate with any other paint companies specifically. And
Hmm.
now that's not to say that they would have like rejected it when I applied, but I think they want to be aware of if you are contractually dealing with somebody else. But
Okay.
like if you're talking about other brands, again, unless there's that exclusivity word in the contract that you're signing, so be thorough with that, because exclusivity basically means for the duration of this contract, I will exclusively, there's usually parameters of like only paint companies, or can't talk about any products that are the same as the thing that we sell, which could be more than just paint or whatever. But I haven't seen it where they say you can't talk about the same things, the same types of products, unless that word exclusivity is in there. And if you ever encounter something like that, you can always like any contract that's sent to you, if there's something on there that you're not comfortable signing off on and like agreeing to, you are in your full right to say, thanks so much for sending that over. Looks great. There's just a couple amendments that I wanted to suggest, blah, 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 remove this word or change this phrase to this. And, there
Okay.
can be a conversation there. I think just in general, like talking partnerships and affiliates and stuff, we can kind of feel so, because we're excited, we want it to work out so bad and like come together in this vision that we've had and stuff. So we don't want to push back at all, right? We get kind of
Right.
scared of like pushing back and like having everything crumble as a result. But at the end of the day, like I said, they're a business. They have their own best interests in mind, and you're a business too. So you have to have your own best interests in mind as well. So just being willing to stand your ground and advocate for yourself and your rights and stuff like that, and be okay with whatever comes, but know that chances are that's never going to be like the be all end all, especially if it's something so minor as like one word in a contract.
Right.
I've had it before where I've been like, oh, can you remove that? And they're like, oh, yeah, for sure. Just send it back immediately without it. So it can be scary, especially the first time you're doing it. You're going to be like staring at your inbox and like refreshing and like being like, oh my God, what's happening? But the more you do it, the easier it gets. And it's good to not get yourself burned in that way. So
Right.
I'm
Because
not
if I like a product, I want to be able to use a product and not be restricted.
exactly. And that's the thing too. I think brands are more understanding now of the realities because there's so many people who are just content creators and that's their full-time thing. So especially if you're an educational account, which you are, you're teaching people, you're showing people how you're doing these furniture flips and things like that. Like you want to be able to speak authentically and in your own words and, with your own opinions and stuff about these things. So people are more understanding of that now. There's definitely no like maliciousness or anything. Brands all know what they're doing and they know
Right.
that there's more than enough people to go around too. So just be aware of anything that you're signing, I would say, and have a conversation if you see something that would limit that, but it's not frequently what I'm seeing out there.
Okay. That's good to know. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So when you first reached out, I asked, what do you hope to walk away from our session with? And you said a concrete plan. So
Ooh.
do you have that? Do you feel like you have that laid out in your
I
notes now?
Yes, so I feel like the first thing I'm going to do is make a list of products that I use daily across the board, brands that I use and would love to work with, whether it's an affiliate or a partnership. And
Mhm.
then once I have a list, do some Googling and I think start on the affiliate side of things
Okay.
and then work my way up to the partnership.
Amazing.
I think I have a plan. Oh my gosh.
And do you have a
Um,
timeline for when you'd like to have said plan completed or certain stages done? Like, do you have an idea of when you'd
oh
like
gosh.
to reach those things? Because that you can have a plan, but it could sit untouched for years.
Yep, here we go with the SMART goals. I think that, I mean, definitely a list of companies and brands, probably by the end of the week is something I feel like I could, just have a note thing on my phone. Oh, I use this and jot it down. Start doing some research, apply for some affiliates. Probably in the next month, I would say. I have a goal to have 2 affiliates, maybe.
Beautiful. That sounds very smart. SMART.
Yes, right. Everybody go Google SMART goals.
Perfect. Okay. Well, Jen, thank you so much for being here. And Busy Bees, I hope you learned lots from today's session and maybe picked up some tips that you can help to implement into your side hustle or businesses moving forward and either help boost your income or at least expand your knowledge of it. And when the time comes, you'll know what to do. And if you are currently facing a similar challenge that you'd like to chat about one-on-one, or if you have another challenge or issue that you'd like to work through, you can apply for a spot to join me right here, just like Jen did today, by clicking the link in the show notes and signing up for a Busy Bees in Business strategy session. All right, that's it for now. I appreciate your time, and I will catch you guys